this is neo-colonial scramble for Africa. They are coming back to take our resources through the back door of climate solution. Right now, we are net food importers here in Kenya. But instead of us thinking on how we can grow food, we are now thinking on how we can grow carbons. The carbon market initiatives is not an African agenda. It's an agenda that has come outside of Africa. And because Africa is in distress, fiscal distress, we are jumping on it.
Hello and a warm welcome to today's episode of LNS. My name is Lynn Ngugi and I have to say thank you so much guys for the feedback that you gave us on our conversation with Mordecai and Baria Wambaria on the big conservation lie. I am so happy that we are getting to educate ourselves because we really have to keep having these thought-provoking conversations. And I remember one of the things that actually stood out after that conversation, I really wanted to have something to do or just a topic on carbon credits, because people have been hearing this thing, carbon credits, carbon offsets, carbon markets, all these things, right? And people are telling you plant trees because you are going to benefit. We are going to start paying you for planting trees. But what exactly are these things? This carbon market, carbon credits, carbon whatever, all these carbon things, what really are they? And I found someone very amazing to be able to walk us through this conversation in a very layman's language, because you cannot tell me that we are selling millions of acres of our own forest in things that we Kenyans do not understand. So you know what we do? You take your notebook and you take your pen, because we are about to get educated on matters carbon credits, carbon offsets, carbon markets, and also see, is this the new scramble for Africa, and is someone taking Africans for granted? So without further ado, please allow me to let my guest introduce himself so that we can get this conversation started. Hi sir, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Karibu sana LNN.
Thanks
How
for
are
having
you feeling?
me. I'm excited that we're having this conversation. It's long overdue.
It's long overdue, right?
For sure.
Yes, I'm about to get into it because trust you me, as I said, this is something I've wanted to talk about here on the show. But before we can go any further, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much. My name is Amos Wemanya. I work with an organization called Greenpeace Africa as their responsive campaigning lead. I'm a climate and energy activist based here in Nairobi, Kenya, but working across the continent.
Okay. And I'm so happy you took time off to just come and have this conversation. As I was doing my research, you've spoken about this so many times. You're actually out there advocating and also telling people, listen guys, tunapa something is about to happen and we need to keep our eyes open, right? But before we get started, something is happening in our country. People are starting to pay attention to very crucial conversations. Conversations around conservation, conversations around our education. People are really paying close attention to this. Where is the awakening? Are you happy? Where do you think the awakening is coming from? And are you happy in the direction we are taking as a country?
Yeah, we're living in very exciting times, Lynn. If you look at the country right now, we're faced with multiple challenges. The climate crisis, the debt crisis, shrinking support for social services such as education. And this is triggering a conversation amongst the people. That how do we find a solution to this? Is it issue of governance and leadership? Is it issue of us organizing and coming together to be able to find solutions to this? So these challenges have triggered a conversation that is spanning across social, economic, and political lens. And for the first time, issues of climate, issues of conservation have come to the fore because we are our land. And with the challenges that we're facing, communities are losing livelihoods. We have been shuttling between droughts and floods. And this is driving people even out of their lands forcefully. And also solutions that are being presented to the people, they are also not very beneficial to the people. They are further marginalizing groups that have been marginalized in this country. You look at the pastoralists. We have solutions that are changing the way of their livelihoods, the way of their lifestyle. And we know they've been nomads. They've been moving around. Whenever there is droughts, they move to another area to be able to sustain their livelihoods. But this is now shrinking. This is shrinking because there are other ventures and schemes that have come in forms of solutions that are taking away this privilege from pastoralists.
people.
Yeah, they do not have the privilege anymore of moving around with animals. And this kind of lifestyle is being labeled as very backward. But we know very well these landscapes that are inhabited by these groups of communities can only be sustained that way. If you introduce other forms of livelihoods, other forms of activities, you further destroy those ecosystems. And this is being driven by greed. We have a few groups of people that are out there to profit out of everyone's misery. And they are the minority. And this is now making people to realize that no, we've been maligned, we've been marginalized by this small group of people that are out to profit from anything, from people suffering to any opportunity that presents itself. And we cannot continue with greed if we are to sustain. We are running out of resources. We have limited resources, but they are enough to meet our needs and welfare and well-being, but not our greed.
Good. And today I want us to talk about the scam in this climate change conversation, right? And I want to start by asking you, do you think there's a new scramble for Africa right now in the name of carbon credits? And the reason I'm asking you is I was reading this article by The Guardian, right? And I realized that not only has Kenya sold millions of acres, right? Not sold, leased.
They have leased
Millions of acres to these Emirates, right?
Yeah.
But also other countries outside Africa have done so. And I remember the journalist said that this is the new scramble for Africa because number one, even the normal mwananchi does not understand what carbon credit or carbon conversation is, right? So before we explore the scam in this climate change, let's start in a very layman's language. What is carbon credit? What is this carbon conversation that is going on in Africa right now? And do you believe this is the new scramble of the continent?
You see, there are two types of carbon markets. There is the compliance one and the voluntary one. In the compliance market, they set a cap of emissions that companies and industries operating in that jurisdiction have a cap to what they can emit. And if you're going to exceed that cap, you can buy from another company within the same jurisdiction to be able to offset your pollution.
Aya, kidogo. Sorry. Let's go back. This is Kenya,
Yes.
right? Kenya is emitting. This is Tanzania. Me, I'm emitting more. Tanzania is emitting less. How are they to buy from me? See, in a layman's, carbon ni hewa ama carbon ni nini?
Carbon is...
Tuambie in a very layman's language. Ndio watu wakiambiwa carbon waelewe. Carbon ni nini? Ndio tujue how is it that other countries like the US are now coming to buy from ni nini? Watu hata wajui nini wanauza. Watu wajui wanapanda nini, wanauza nini, but mumeambiwa carbon credits, carbon. Sasa tupeleke tu pole pole.
Yeah, you see, we are in a climate crisis because of
Yes.
pollution that comes from what we call carbon dioxide. When companies or industries, in their activities, they burn, let's say, oil or gas
Yes.
or diesel, this produces a gas called carbon dioxide.
Good.
And when it gets into the atmosphere, it's the one that changes the elements of the atmosphere and brings in an effect called global warming, a warming effect.
Yes.
So the trees that we plant, we learned in photosynthesis that trees take carbon
Carbon dioxide.
from the atmosphere in that process to make food and produce oxygen. So the reason we are advocating for people to plant trees is to be able to absorb this carbon that has been released in the atmosphere. But you see, we are having an assumption here that these trees, you see, when companies emit carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, it's permanent. But these trees, removal of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere by trees is only temporary, as long as the tree still stands. When you cut the tree,
it's over.
It's over. So we cannot equate what the industries are doing by emitting more carbon in the atmosphere by planting trees as a substitute. Actually, what needs to happen if we are going to address the issue of climate change is to ask the industries to move to alternative forms of energy that do not emit carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
Good.
Stop polluting. But these industries have really invested in fossil fuel, and they don't want to do that. So what they are doing is they are saying, we can continue emitting, but pay someone elsewhere to be able to plant trees that can absorb what we are emitting. You see, we are living in a very dangerous time. The scientists have set a limit that we need to limit global temperature rise at 1.5 degrees. We are at 1.2 global average temperature rise. And we can see what is happening with 1.2. The scientists have warned us that if we exceed 1.5, this planet might become inhabitable. And we're already seeing these challenges. But you see, these activities that have got us to this challenge is by a minority group of global elites that run these multinational corporations. And they don't want to stop their bad behavior. And that's why they are creating an imaginary commodity market called carbon credits. So that they can continue polluting with the lie that their pollution is being offset by somebody else elsewhere. In compliance markets, for example, Kenya would set a cap. But now what African countries are participating in and what Kenya is participating right now is what we call voluntary carbon markets. So there's no cap. You just decide that I'm going to pay a group of people in Kenya to plant trees. Then you send your verifier to come and verify that these trees have been planted. And these trees is this number or this number of hectares of land. So they are able to absorb this amount of carbon. You see? But these verifiers and the project developer are so connected. So this brings in the element of conflict of interest. They might overstate the offset claims so that they earn more.
Yes.
And the polluting companies can pollute more, can continue polluting and profiteering out of people suffering. So this is an imaginary commodity that has been created.
So it's imaginary?
Yeah, carbon credit is an imaginary commodity. You can put a finger on it. That is verified by a certain clique of people that empower science over communities and everyone and governments. If you ask our communities what carbon credit is, they do not know. They only rely on information given to them by project developers, by standard setters, by verifiers, by these consultancies. Them themselves do not have that power to determine that my farm should be producing such amounts of carbon credits. Who even determines the price for a carbon credit? It's not the community. It's determined elsewhere. So what comes to the community and our governments is crumbs that are thrown at us to continue permitting polluters to continue polluting. So we are just dishing out pollution permits to these industries, at whose expense we are the most affected by the climate crisis because we are dependent on natural resources for our survival. Most of our communities depend on agriculture. So if the rains fail, who are the most affected groups? It's us. So we cannot dish out cheap pollution permits to these industries to continue polluting at our expense because we are the ones who are going to face the wrath of the climate crisis. The thing is, The money they give to the communities, is it able to help these communities withstand the ravages that are brought by the climate crisis, extreme weather events? No. The answer is no. It's crumbs compared to what the polluting companies are making out of their pollution activities. So the thing is, we need to ask these companies to stop polluting rather than greenwashing them by providing them with an opportunity to continue polluting while they throw crumbs at us. Yes.
Let's talk about the money, because people are saying there is money in carbon credits. We are going to get a lot of money planned. Would this also explain why you have heads of states, you know, telling people today is National Tree Planting Day, and people don't understand, why do we need to plant tree and it's flooding? You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So is it that our leaders know that there is money coming in the name of carbon credits?
Yeah, the thing is, we have a problem here. One of the things that we must face as a reality as a country is that we are in debt distress. The climate crisis is even rolling back the progress in terms of development that we have had. For example, the recent floods here swept away infrastructure, and we had to recap using money that would have gone to other budget lines. So we have had to borrow to be able to meet some of the damages and losses that are caused by the climate crisis. So there is an international process that is happening under the United Nations Framework for Climate Change Convention, UNFCCC, where countries have come together to discuss on how they can find solutions to the climate crisis. But for countries like Kenya, we are also looking at how can we be able to service our debts. So, and then here there comes a scheme called Africa Carbon Market Initiative that is promising a lot of money in terms of dollars to our government if they are going to engage in tree planting and these activities that remove carbon from the atmosphere as a way of solution. And that's why we've seen even here as a country, we have framed ourselves as solution providers and not victims of the climate crisis.
Oh, let's talk about that.
You remember Africa Climate Summit? It was
Yes.
framed around us being able to provide the rest of the world with
With
the
solutions.
But the promise is, if you're going to plant trees for carbon market, you're going to get some revenue from it. And we are hard on generating foreign revenue because we have to pay debts, we have to import oil, we have to import food through foreign currency. So if there is a scheme that's going to bring in money, most leaders will jump on it, and that's what our government has done. But the thing is, the little money that is thrown at us through these schemes, do you know where it goes? It doesn't go into helping communities build resilience to these challenges of the climate crisis. It goes back into repaying debts. So we are left empty-handed again. After selling our forests, after auctioning ourselves to external companies who come and now appropriate our forests for the business of growing carbon. The little money they give to us does not go into development. It does not go into communities and helping them to be able to be resilient. It goes into repaying debts. And that's why there is a call for an international reform to the global financial architecture that disadvantages developing countries such as Kenya. So instead of our leaders jumping onto these false solutions, short-term fixes that do not actually fix the problem, they should be advocating for a reform on how we engage with the rest of the world.
Okay.
Africa should be setting its own agenda. We have operated on the agenda of others for way too long. The carbon market initiatives is not an African agenda. It's an agenda that has come outside of Africa. And because Africa is in distress, fiscal distress, we are jumping on it so that we are able to get that little revenue to pay off our debts and keep those international organizations a little bit at ease. And not also getting into very bad debt risk ratings.
Okay.
So it's not something that is going to help our communities build resilience to the climate crisis. It's not going to help us actually develop, because it's taking away our land. You can't really develop by giving out your land. You see, Liberia is just about to lose 10% of its territorial sovereign to these project developers, Middle East companies.
It's called the blue what?
Blue carbon.
Yes.
So 10% of Liberia is going. How do you develop? You mentioned in your introduction that there's a new scramble for Africa. Actually, this is new colonial scramble for Africa. They are coming back to take our resources through the back door of climate solution. We got here because of markets. Markets have really got us into problems. The climate crisis is a market crisis where a few individuals, a few global elites want to benefit out of everyone else. They are out to make profits out of everything. And that's how we are in problems. So we cannot use the same approach, market-driven, in finding climate solutions. It will get us into same challenges we have had. We can't commodify everything.
Yes.
What carbon markets are doing, what offsets are doing, is putting a price on everything, including our nature. Nature has been very benevolent, and it has provided us with all the needs, the services that we need, from air that we breathe to the water that we take. If we are going to commodify, then that means we are going to exclude. And if you are very keen with the market-driven approaches and corporate-driven agenda, it's about excluding others so that they are able to put a price. And if you can afford it, then you get the privilege. So it's about privileging nature when we commodify it and make it a market product. And that's what exactly carbon markets are
is doing.
Putting a price on our forests and our communities. You see, when you put a price on our forests, that means the communities that have existed and protected these forests do not have the resources to keep staying there. Then those that have capital come and displace them.
Man, let's go back to blue carbon, right? Because it's leasing a lot of land, especially in African countries. And the details on how much they've leased in Kenya's forest is very scarce. Do we know how, because it's millions of acres, right? We are talking about millions of acres.
Yes.
Hiyo ni shamba inatoshanaje Nairobi mzima?
It's very huge.
It's very huge. When they are doing this, where does public participation come in? Where do we, as the public, do we get to say, no, we don't want this part of our forest list, no? Where does public participation come in?
Look, we've already auctioned these millions of hectares to these companies. And that's when we are developing a law to accompany it.
Wait. We auctioned before there was a law?
Yes. The government started amending the Climate Change Act when there are already these deals being brokered. So the law is a bit more reactive. So now we have amended our Climate Change Act to include components of carbon markets. But what does this act look like? It takes away the power also from the custodians of our lands, the groups that have protected and have inhabited these lands for a very long time. So that the government can come, take away land for carbon projects, and only enter into a benefit sharing mechanism with the communities. Wait, the communities own this land. They should be the one determining the activities on the land. But because there's a huge interest in earning revenue from these schemes, that's what the law is providing. That the government can come, take away your land, and if you're going to participate in carbon market without authorization from government, the penalties are ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
They're out of this world.
So dengue.
It prohibits, no, dengue is 1 million. This is 100 million. Yeah.
Wait, what are you saying?
Yeah, it's a lot of money. If you are found participating in carbon markets without authorization, it's huge amounts of money in terms of penalty. So it discourages
Wow.
groups from participating in this.
So the power
So it's
again is
a small group of clique that is actually designed to participate, looking at the penalty if you float,
yes.
if you participate without a license. But they are saying, no, this is meant to protect communities from, you see, this unconventional and cartel people who go to communities and sell them air in form of carbon credits and all those and benefit, and the communities don't benefit. So they are saying this law is to protect the communities, right? But we should give power to the communities then. You mentioned about public participation. The thing is, our constitution is very clear. Public participation is very central to our constitution as a people in Kenya. But how carbon markets operate is they operate in utmost secrecy. You will never get to know the details of these deals. And that's how they are designed. It's by design. It's not a coincidence that we do not have much information on how millions of hectares have been leased out to these companies. That's how it is designed. So public participation is not in the spirit of these schemes because they are designed to operate in secret.
So I have a question, right? Because the forest is ours and we've leased, say, to this blue carbon, right? So they come, the same way people are talking about Adani and JKI. So they come and they manage our forest for us. They invest, they get that, and then they benefit. 70% of what comes from there goes to them for another 30 years. So are you telling me as Kenyans, also we don't have people who can do that and the income remains in our own country?
Yeah, the thing is, it's a very complex ecosystem. We normally have the project proponents.
Yes.
Then we have the project developers. Then we have standard setters and verifiers in the whole chain of activities. So these foreign companies have connection to companies that are polluting, mostly fossil fuel companies.
Yes.
That do not want to reduce their emissions. So they go and have a negotiation, say, we are going to get an offset project for you in Kenya. And then they negotiate with Kenya. So Kenya gives a price on what they want to auction or sell that lease on.
Lease on.
Yeah. So these ones, they go and negotiate the polluters. Of course, because there are so many players in between, they have to pay the verifier, they have to pay the project developer. They'll have to negotiate for the biggest junk because they are the project owners. Us, at the end use, we are only told about the small benefits that we get from it over this period of time. But how they even arrive at this figure, we are not involved. So that's why I was hoping that the law, as Kenya was changing the law, the Climate Change Act to include carbon markets, they would set a certain price. That if you want carbon credits from Kenya, this is the minimum price you can pay. You see, not market determined. Because when it's determined by the market, and then they will tell you, okay, if you are not giving us your credits, we can get cheap ones elsewhere. So it's a race to the bottom. Those that want this revenue, they will go for anything. But we need to respect ourselves. If we set the cap, we say, we are not going to buy our carbon credits below 40 USD or 50 USD per credit. I don't think it will attract as much attention as it is right now, because we are giving our land and our forests cheaply. That's why you see everyone now is focused on carbon markets in Africa. Because we haven't set our own terms. We are operating on the terms of others, the market terms. That's why I was saying Africa needs to realize that they are in control. It is us who have the forests.
The resources.
The land is ours. Why would you allow somebody else to come and set a price for you? And you settle for 30% when it is you who's owning the land?
Na wamepata msitu tushawatengenezea. Hata
And
si
the
ati
thing is,
wanapanda miti.
even if we are going to now to even grow new forests, that means we are going to displace our people
Yes.
from this land.
And it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. We have seen the Ogek being kicked out of Mao so that the area is protected to harvest carbon. We have seen the patterns of pastoralism being changed, and pastoralists being asked to reduce the number of animals they keep. They say your animals are destroying the ecosystem. But no, these animals actually are the ones that make the savannah the way it is. If we are going to introduce an alternative way of life and practices here, then this ecosystem is going to be destroyed. So who else knows better on how to use our grasslands than the pastoralists? But because of carbon market schemes, these pastoralists are being asked now to change the way they have been herding their livestock, to even reduce the number of livestock. And now the animals are being labeled as a contributor to the destruction of that ecosystem. But these people have lived in this ecosystem for a very long time. They understand the ecosystem better. We do not need somebody to come outside and teach the pastoralists on how to use the grasslands. That's what's happening.
It's crazy because I think we are at 4% when it comes to polluting. So what Africa, right? 4%, right? So why is this our business, by the way?
When you say 4%, look, we have major economies like South Africa and Northern Africa that contribute very much.
Yeah.
When you look at most countries in Sub-Saharan Africa, including Kenya, it's negligible. So we are suffering a problem that we have not contributed to. And in this, there needs to be international cooperation. There has to be international solidarity with the communities on the front line of the crisis. Because these communities have not contributed to the problem, but now they have to deal with floods. They have to deal with droughts. Surely, those who have benefited from this needs to provide the much needed support. And the support is through climate finance, is through transfer of life-saving technologies. Why do we still have to have intellectual properties on these technologies that are so critical in helping communities withstand the challenges presented by extreme weather events? Why can't we allow communities to have access to these life-saving technologies, for example? Why can't we make irrigation accessible when rains fail, so that our communities can continue producing? And that's what we need. We need food. We need clean energy to be able to power our productive uses, activities, so that we are able to continue producing even during these extreme moments. We need development. Our people need to develop. And what we are calling for is that international solidarity through provision of climate finance and technologies. But what we are being presented with is carbon markets, is distractions, is greenwashing fraud that is taking away our land and even making us even much more vulnerable. Instead of helping us to be able to overcome these challenges, they are even making Africa more vulnerable. And you see, a vulnerable Africa means we continue to depend on the outside for everything. We become slaves of others. Right now, we are net food importers here in Kenya. But instead of us thinking on how we can grow food, we are now thinking on how we can grow carbons.
Oi.
so that we can continue depending on the outside for our food. The little revenue that comes in, I've talked about going to repayment of debt, but also we import our food in foreign currency. So we are losing every revenue that comes into the country to repaying debt, to having to import food because we are growing what we don't eat, and we have to get food from elsewhere. We have to import energy in terms of oil and gas when we have renewables. No one is talking about investing in our energy sovereignty, that we are able to produce even the solar equipment and create job opportunities for the young people, because we have abundant solar in Kenya. We have wind.
Yeah.
But what we are doing is we are constantly hemorrhaging our country with imports of very essential commodities. And when we speak about becoming energy sovereign, food sovereign, no one is going to invest in that. But when you talk about carbon markets, where we are now going to lose even our territorial sovereignty, you have a new scramble.
Sad.
No, we need to emancipate ourselves.
So what do we do?
I think we are organizing. Looking at the continent right now, civil society groups are coming together and forming networks and movements. Conversations like what we are having now needs to happen even more, so that we enlighten ourselves. And through these dialogues and these conversations, we are able to establish our positions, our priority needs, and pathways that will enable us to get to the Africa, the Kenya we want. The Kenya that is servicing the interests of its people and not a small group of elites. These conversations are very important.
Yeah.
But also organizing. We need to organize in different formations. Civil society groups, the academics needs to start investigating and providing us.
Because this is annexation of Africa's land now.
With this data. You see what? We are dependent on other people's data. Most of the time when we speak about these figures, we get them from World Bank. And they normally give us what they feel it's just enough for us. But why can't we invest in generating our own data so that we are able to know? You asked, aren't there Kenyans who can participate in designing carbon market schemes? Why didn't we have our own scheme here that's going to tax the polluter? And that money goes into the communities. Why do we have to depend elsewhere for data, for everything? And we embrace everything that is foreign in this country. I think that needs to shift, and it's shifting. We have seen the recent organizing. So groups are organizing. There's an awakening spirit within the country and on the continent, and I'm very hopeful.
How much have we leased as a country to foreign investors in matters carbon markets? Is it a lot?
I do not have a figure because, like I mentioned, these schemes operate in secrecy. Unless there's an expose, like what we had for Liberia, that Liberia was going to lose 10% of its territorial sovereignty. We haven't had a similar expose here. And I think that should happen because these schemes actually, they do not offset carbon as they claim. You mentioned the Guardian. Guardian expose was saying that whatever actually they claim to have offset is not true. Because it's a scheme that is operated with a lot of vested interests. So if you exaggerate the offsetting, you get more money out of it and allow the polluter to continue polluting. So we need such expose to how much land are we losing as a country to these schemes. But before then, why should we be losing this land? Why can't we engage effectively in the discussions around climate finance that are happening within the UNFCCC process to be able to attract the much needed resources for our continent, to be able to compensate for the losses and damages that our communities are facing, to be able to help our communities to adapt. Why are we not having these bold and concrete discussions in those spaces and allowing ourselves to fall to these greenwashing schemes that are not very helpful to our continent, that are going to take away even the little that we are left with to survive on?
It's sad though, because to watch an African country say that it's gone, when you hear it being said they're about to lose 10% of their territory, that's crazy.
And this is a country that's already facing challenges that they did not contribute to. You see, the 4% you mentioned, Lynn, is current and historical. But mainly, the challenges we are facing today is because of historical emissions. And when you look at Africa's historical emissions, they are very low, lower than 1%. So these challenges that we are faced with, we did not contribute to it.
Yeah.
But we are the victims of it. And those who contributed to this challenge, they are transferring responsibility, their responsibility of helping find solutions, to the victims, and even further making victims more vulnerable. Imagine losing 10% of your territorial sovereignty. Now, the Ogek that are being kicked out of their lands that they have called home for a very long time, where do they go to? The pastoralists that are already affected by droughts, they are losing their livestock and livelihoods.
Where do they go to?
Where do they go to when you are leasing their land to these carbon market companies? They come to Nairobi. They have no skills to live here. They become street families. They become even more vulnerable. Should we be doing this to communities that for a very long time have led this lifestyle in sustenance, that have not contributed to the problem, but are victims of the problem? Should we be further victimizing them? And I don't think that should be the direction we should be taking as a country. We should be protecting our people. We should be protecting our ecosystems because we really depend on them.
Yes. Well, talk to me. What is this craziness about people adapting forests? The other day you were talking about over-romanticization of nature, and now we have people saying the First Lady is adapting the Kakamega forest, right? How can you adapt a forest, and why are you adapting a forest?
It's about interests. You see, the forest belongs to the people. It's a public resource. That we should be drawing public benefits from it. But when you adopt and exclude the public, that means you're putting power in the hands of those who have adopted and those few. And you see, when you look at the history of exclusion, it starts by a narrative behind it, that we want to conserve this ecosystem for the benefit of nature and people. But if you really want to conserve this for the benefit of nature and people, people have been coexisting here.
Yes.
Why do you have to exclude them? So the narrative around adoption of forests and all that is about protection. That this is the only rainforest here, and we need to protect it because the rainforest is very important for our ecosystem. Yes, that's true. But why do you have to fence it off with an electric fence?
And exclude.
So that there's no activity, so that no one knows what you're doing with it.
No one monitors.
So that you have control over the resource. And when you have control, you control even the information around that. So it can be easily auctioned because there's no access for others. It is exclusive for a small group who have that privilege of adopting that ecosystem.
So it's just personal interests, nothing else.
It is personal interest and greed over the interests of the majority. And that's why we need to take back this power. History has shown that it's not easy. Power is never given.
It must be taken.
It must be taken, and people need to rise up and protect what their needs are, protect their interests. Because Africa's interests, our interests, are at stake for the benefit of a few global elites with a few local characters.
Yes, sir. Let's talk about the money part, especially when you say this ton will cost. How is that measured? And for those who are practicing, is the money good?
No, the thing is, it's peanuts. The thing is, because it's determined by project developers.
Yes.
You see, the people who own the resources don't have a say in determining the price. And that's why I was thinking this new act, the amended act, would include provisions for the price of a carbon credit, not market-driven. You see, when you allow it to be market-driven,
Yes.
that's where there is rest to the bottom, that we can get cheaper credits from Tanzania. So they threatened you with that, so you have to lower your rates and agree to what they provide. And then the determination of the price is left to science. Our communities have no capacity. You and me, we have no capacity to calculate the price.
What do we know?
So we only take what we are presented with.
Yes.
Why are we giving so much power to others? We can only do that if we have a government that cares and is able to set a price for these credits. But we don't have that. We have left it to the market. And when you leave it to the market, then you're exposing your people. We know what markets have done to communities. They leave you selling at the lowest rate of your valuables because of other factors within the market.
Oh, so what due diligence goes on in making sure that the investor that's coming at are credible? Because Adani, the one for JKIA, again, controversies after controversies. Blue carbon, controversies after controversies. So what due diligence even goes in making sure whoever is entering in our country is credible?
You'll be surprised that even the officials that are involved in brokering these deals don't understand the whole scheme. They rely on external consultancies for advice or misadvice. So there's no due diligence. We are just driven by greed because a country thinks that can make little revenue out of this project. Then you send a whole delegation to go and negotiate what they don't even understand. So even the officials in the ministries that have participated in brokering these deals, if you go and ask them, they have very little understanding of what all these schemes is all about.
So even we are not backed by any knowledge, we don't know what we are doing here.
We are driven by others. And I would say even the amendment of the law is an advice from outside. It's not our own initiative. And that's the problem that we have, Lynn. We depend so much on the outside. Even in developing our own plans, a plan is exported from elsewhere. And we are happy to launch it with pomp and color and domesticate it without understanding actually the details of that plan, the details of that strategy. And it has happened with so many strategies that we have in this country. They are externally exported to us. That we are borrowing just what others have developed for us. But they have a philosophy behind it. They have the thinking behind it that we do not understand.
They know what they want.
Yeah, this is neo-colonization. You see, they did not live here happily. We have to be careful and protect our interests. Otherwise, if we are going to consume everything that is dumped on us, including plants, then we are getting ourselves in a mess.
Okay, That's sad to hear, but considering we are at an advantage here, because we have something to offer the world, right? We have something to offer. If we were to do this right, we could benefit as a country, right? How can we make sure this benefits the people?
Yeah, the thing is,
CCC polluters, so
Yeah,
soko tuko nayo, but how do we make sure this now benefits us as a country?
I have a problem with trying to commodify everything. That since we have a forest, then we need to
Commodify.
put a price on it and sell. I think that's problematic, and that's why I say we have plenty of oxygen. If we are going to commodify everything and make everything a product for sale, we are getting ourselves in danger. We are privileging those who have capital. So we should not be auctioning ourselves that way. In as much as we still have forests that we are protected and we depend on them,
Yes.
it's good to protect them that way and not
And
put
leave
a
them
price,
there.
and not put a price on it, because we depend on them for our survival. The moment you start auctioning them out, that means you have no control. That means those that you have sold to
Have control.
will have to determine how you engage with that. So we shouldn't be auctioning ourselves.
So even carbon markets should
It's a
not
fraud.
be our business.
No, we shouldn't engage in such things that commodify everything, including our life support systems. Otherwise, we're putting ourselves at a danger.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you are going to auction everything because you can put a price and get something, that's problematic. No, that's not the direction that.
In short,
we
si
want.
tukae nje.
No.
This is
we
not
should
our
be asking
problem.
for something different.
Yes.
We should be asking those that have caused pollution to pay for it, to stop polluting and start paying. Because we know those that have got us into this challenge. Why are governments out there protecting them? They need to be taxed. And that revenue that is taxed from these polluters out of their pollution should be channeled to communities, rather than commodifying communal life support systems such as land and our forests.
Yes, our
and
heritage.
selling again to the people who have created the problem and earned capital out of creating the problem. They will come and buy you off and make you even more vulnerable because you will not now access the resources. So it's a danger. Let's not jump on everything that is presented to us. And like I said, market-driven solutions are not going to cut it for us. Yeah.
For someone who would be interested, I love what you said. Let's not commodify everything. Just because it's there doesn't mean it's for sale.
It's for sale, yeah. Otherwise, we'll be commodifying even oxygen soon.
Yes.
And those who can't afford oxygen will have to die.
Still serious, eh?
It is.
Still serious. So for the normal one, I was asking someone who is interested in knowing how offsetting works. So how is a forest, how will Karura Forest help America?
Yeah, the thing is, let's say there is a company in America
Yes.
that wants to continue burning fossil fuels and emitting carbon dioxide. And now they want just to feel good that even as they continue polluting, they are paying someone somewhere who's absorbing, because we have a shared global atmosphere. It's shared. So the pollution in America affects Africa equally.
Yes.
So if you grow forest in Karura, the forest absorbs that. But how much the forest has absorbed is left to science to calculate and now quantify. So let's say Karura absorbs 30 tons of carbon. So a company in America will be allowed to emit 30 tons of carbon into the atmosphere with the understanding that Karura is absorbing that 30 tons.
In our so
Yeah.
they are
But
good.
you see that those emissions, like I said, that they are emitting are permanent in the atmosphere. But Karura forest can only absorb as much as the forest still stands. When you cut the forest, that means the carbon that it absorbed is released back.
Yes.
Because when you burn charcoal and all that, you are releasing
Back to
whatever
the
was
atmosphere.
absorbed back in the atmosphere. So we cannot use that to solve a problem that is so huge to humanity that is so threatening our very own existence, we can't be hallucinating about offsets.
Yes.
Because offsets do not meet the thresholds of even helping us cut emissions. By offsets, we are just allowing polluters to continue polluting. And this threatens our very own existence. You can imagine a world that has floods all over, all the time. Because the rainfall patterns have shifted.
Yeah.
Even now, our farmers don't know when to plant. Because when they expect the rain to come, they come in floods and destroy everything that they have put in the soil. And sometimes we have extended droughts that have become so intense and very frequent at one point too. So if we continue on this trajectory that we are on right now, by the end of this century, we are about to hit 2.7 of warming, which is more than double what we have seen. Now, the crisis that we have seen, you can imagine something double than that. Can we withstand? Especially we here in Kenya, do we have the capacity? So the polluters must stop polluting. But at the same time, take responsibility for the damages that they have caused our communities and provide finance and provide those technologies without conditions. Those are the discussions we are having this year around finance. In November, the world will be meeting in Baku, Azerbaijan, to discuss climate finance. You remember in 2009, developed countries promised 100 billion to developing countries to be able to help them overcome the challenges of climate change. 15 years later, they have hardly fulfilled their promise. So this year, we are coming up with a new goal. And this goal has to be commensurate with the challenges that developing countries are facing. Not a blanket figure like 100 billion every year. That was not based on any analysis. The current analysis that has been done, Africa requires 1 trillion every year to be able to overcome the challenges that are presented by the climate crisis. So that's the conversation that we should be advancing and not being distracted by carbon market schemes. You see, instead of the polluter providing with those resources, they are telling you, no, you have a forest. You can sell your forest and make a little money that can help you overcome these challenges that we have caused you. But they know you also have a debt. So they know if they give you that little money, will not go into investing in systems that are going to help communities overcome this challenge. But you will quickly use that money to repay the debt. So you become so dependent on a system that is so extracting our communities all the time and giving nothing back.
Wow.
When you go and ask them, we need a renewable energy project, what do they present? These energy saving GECOs that are subsidized. Why can't they foot the whole cost and give these technologies to the communities? Why do they call it subsidized? And who's benefiting in between? These have solutions that are being presented to us. And you see, they go and calculate and say, okay, because we have given this number of GECOs to these households, this is the emission that the household is going to save out of using the GECO. They don't even know whether the household is using it or not.
Or they even stopped a long time ago.
You have hanged it somewhere. And here, there's someone who's polluting in the name that you are reducing because you are not using firewood like you used to use. When you have gone back to the 3 stone, but somebody somewhere is calculating that you are offsetting the emissions. You see how flawed this is? Yes.
Why? Man, this should actually get to reach everyone.
Yeah, the thing is,
I feel like it's here to blind us.
Yeah, we are in a mess. The thing is, those who want to profit are developing everything. They're hanging on everything. You see, last year the world decided, 190-something countries came together and decided that we need to transition away from fossil fuels. That's coal, oil, and gas.
Yeah.
But there are companies that have invested heavily and economies that have invested heavily in these resources. So they do not want to transition. So they are coming up with all manner of distractions and excuses so that they don't transition. They will say, okay, we have carbon capture and storage technologies. And Kenya also wants to participate in that. Buying carbon and injecting it in our soil so that it's stored under the ground.
Kenya wants to participate in that.
Kenya is very active in that. So these false solutions and distractions.
So mbona sisi tuna participate kwa kuweka carbon kwa mchanga?
Because we have presented ourselves as not
solutions. We are the solution providers.
So we are aiding these people to continue polluting using all manner of excuses that we can get the carbon and inject it in our soil.
Is this a priority for our country right now?
I don't know whether it's a priority. But you see, what that means is we are going to cut off pieces of land.
And
so that these companies also pay us money.
Yes.
So that we capture carbon and store in that land. So we are going to lease out lands for storing carbon. All these are being presented so that the polluter can continue polluting. Because they are facing a danger. They know that they have to transition. But they are coming up with distractions. Yeah, they are saying, okay, you can sell your forest. No. We have developed a technology that can capture carbon from the atmosphere and put in the soil. We only need land where that can be put. Kenya raises that and say, we have land. Come, we'll give you land where you can capture and store. Come, we have a forest. We are aiding polluters to
and abating terrorists.
Polluters to continue messing us up.
Yes.
And also at the same time, auctioning ourselves. Because we are affected by the climate crisis. We need an urgent action to deal with this crisis. But the polluter doesn't want. So we are used as accomplices also to help the polluter continue polluting without creating a crisis that is affecting us disproportionately. But at the same time, we are selling ourselves off to this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we are displacing our people.
It's land grabs. Do you think these people, after 30 years, they will continue using it for carbon markets?
No. Will they give it back even?
Will they give it back? Do you think these groups, after 30 years, they will still be talking about these carbon market schemes? Is the intention actually to continue protecting the forests? We have seen elsewhere, like in Tanzania, the Maasai community in Loliondo being forcefully evicted. So it's not just a Kenyan problem. It's an African problem. And you see, Africa, in every instance, we have gotten the short end of the stick.
deal.
Because others have learned on how to divide us. They will come to the Kenyan government and speak this and promise them this, so that the Kenyan government does not unite with Tanzania. They have learned, and that's colonial tactics. Divide and conquer. Why can't we speak in one voice as a continent and set our terms when we are engaging with the rest of the world? That this is what we want. The priority needs for our people is, one, those that do not have access to energy, to have access to energy. And we are not going to depend on the energy that is coming outside of the continent. We are going to produce our own energy. You see, Uganda here, they will be producing oil, but they don't have a refinery. So they have to channel it through East Africa crude oil pipeline that goes through Tanzania to outside sell as crude oil, then import back refined. The money for crude oil is not equal to the money they will use to import back refined oil. When they say, okay, can you help us build a refinery? They say, no. We are only going to help you build a pipeline so that we can siphon off all your resources through the port. And all these pipelines end up at the port. And no one is talking about these things. We are just giving all our resources out. In raw form.
Take. Not refined. Then we buy Then we import now.
Yes.
Even our own coffee and tea.
Even the renewable energy we are advocating for. If we are only going to be relying on sun, there's a problem. Why can't we produce the equipment that taps the sun, the solar? Because we are talking about renewables, but no one is positioning us to be able to produce the panels. We still want to import. So we are in the business of auctioning raw forms, our forest, our land, our sun, our oil, and everything.
Yani hata panels tutengenezi?
When we have all the minerals that are needed to make these technologies, but we just sell the minerals in raw form, then buy back the equipment, finished product, very expensive. And because it's very expensive, what we do is, let's say a solar project is coming, we give them land, compensate people for land. Then the companies that are developing this, they come with their technology and earn all the revenue and take it home. For us, we have only compensated our people for land. Then they come with technology and earn everything. Sell us the energy at a premium cost.
Yeah, the resources are ours to start with.
What makes the panels is from here.
Yes.
The sun is ours. The land is
It's
ours.
ours.
The only thing they own is the technology to turn this gold and all these metals.
No, but they will not
into
give you
a
the
panel.
technology. They need
That's
you
what we are saying in
Yes.
these processes, that you should give us these life-saving technologies, because you have created the problem. And now we cannot develop using our oil and gas. We have to use solar. Then give us the solar technology, not the equipment. Give us the technology so that we can make our own solar panels here. We can make our own chip. So that we are participating in the electronics industry, not just as auctioneers of the sun rays
Where?
of land.
Africa, we must wake up.
We must wake up, develop our own policies that are going to empower us.
As a
But also the
continent.
narrative, Lynn, is very important. We have very disempowering narratives that we've been constantly fed on. That everything African is inferior. When we see our people planting these drought-resistant crops, sorghum and all those, if you eat sorghum meals today and all those, you're seen as a very poor person. You want now to eat those fast foods
Bacon.
and things and bacon and stuff, because that's what now is seen as superior. So everyone is abandoning growing these resilient crops to these exotic practices that even make us more vulnerable. Why are we not supporting ecological farming? We want now to go into GMOs and industrial agriculture.
Yes.
Who controls the seed now?
They do.
We have a law that farmers now cannot share seeds.
We are having that conversation soon.
Yeah, Greenpeace is challenging it in court.
Yes. Oh, you are?
Yes,
Okay.
Greenpeace Africa is challenging it with
nice.
farmers.
We have that
in court.
conversation tomorrow, actually.
Yeah. So why should our farmers be denied an opportunity to share seeds? We are giving up all the power, the little power, even the seed system, we can't own it. We are not owning our food system because we can't grow without going to the agrovet. And who owns the seeds in the agrovet? Those are international corporations that are now you can't really replant what you produce. We used to use the maize from previous season to
Every
plant.
single time.
If you try now, it will not grow. You have to go back to the agrovet. And now we are introducing GMOs. We need to take power back in our hands.
I'm in agreement. You know, it's very important to have even carbon market should not be any of our business right now. Because the way this thing is being psyched up, you will think it's the savior. You will think, by the way, all of us need to be in carbon markets now to survive, you know.
Yeah.
You would think actually the money is actually really good.
Yeah.
You would think it's the right thing to do. You even want to start planting trees at your own backyard.
It's good to plant trees.
Which is good, but not to commodify,
Not to sell.
not to sell.
Because we can't be actually selling everything.
So unaona pia watu unaamka tu unaambiwa today is tree planting day. But it's not even to serve us.
Yeah.
People already did their maths somewhere a long time ago. And now they'll use the public as ships.
They are planting these trees for market. We should intrinsically be planting trees so that we protect our ecosystems because we depend on those ecosystems.
Yes.
You see? But if we are going to plant these trees and cede our power to control how they are used by selling them, then it beats the purpose.
New colonization
Neocolonization.
of Africa.
We must stop it. We should not allow ourselves to be auctioned at the back door of finding solutions to these challenges. We have already had enough with the challenges. Why even make us even more vulnerable? We need to be looking for real solutions, not false solutions. What we are presented with in carbon markets is false solutions. Actually, a dangerous distraction. It crowds out real solutions. Because everyone now, like you say, is focused on growing carbon. Everyone wants to grow carbon for carbon markets. No one is thinking about what actually are the real solutions to this challenge we are faced with. How can we make our communities to be more resilient? You see, we are displacing them and they end up in areas where they are more vulnerable. You see what happened in my mind. Now our people are living in very dangerous places that people should not even be inhabiting. And when it rains, there are landslides, they are washed because they have been displaced. We should be doing better.
Yeah.
We discount a lot our leaders. Because these extreme weather events should not always lead to disasters. Why is it that every extreme weather events that happens here turns into a disaster? Have we not learned from previous experiences?
Long overdue.
We have budgets that are being allocated. Is it a question of misallocation, of misappropriation of resources? Because we get to hear whenever the weatherman warns us about floods, resources being allocated. But when the floods finally come, we have so many victims. People losing lives. We should protect lives. We should protect livelihoods. We can do better.
Yeah.
We can be more prepared.
We can.
Yes.
One story at a time. One story at a time.
One story at a time.
One story at a time. I appreciate you for coming over.
Thanks so
Me
much.
na sasa sitaki kusikia kitu ya carbon market tena. I don't even want to hear. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. You know. And I hope we can be able to know as a public how much of our forest have we actually auctioned.
Yeah.
We need the figures.
Yeah.
And those figures better make sense because, hey.
It will be very difficult because these folks operate in secrecy. Have we ever known how much was used first year, for example? No. It's very difficult. So
who are we now to ask
it's the
for
same
figures?
It's the same way of operation.
Yes. Hey, but I appreciate you. I'm happy there are organizations like yours which are at the forefront in making sure that you also educate the public. Me always say, every time you hear something being said, every time you hear leaders pushing you towards a certain narrative, something is off.
Yeah, there's something off.
So something is off.
Like right now, we are just saying we are solution providers. We are not victims. Enough of Africa presenting itself as a victim. But actually, you cannot pretend to be a victim.
You are a victim.
We are victims. These communities that are being displaced by floods, what did they do to contribute to the crisis? Nothing. But they are facing the challenges of the crisis. Aren't they victims?
Yes, they are.
And now we are auctioning them out by telling the world that we are not victims. Actually, come, we have forests that we can sell you.
The irony. Yes. appreciate you for coming through.
Thanks
I
so
really
much.
look forward to having, as I said, more thought-provoking conversations.
For sure.
We have to educate our people. We have, because sababu hiki to even just go randomly, just even do a test and ask people, what are carbon markets, guys? What are carbon credits? What are offsets? People don't know. Even me personally. And this is now the direction. We just jug.
What we know is when you grow trees, you get money.
You'll get money, you know? And the danger is, this is a conversation our leaders want to
entrench
in our minds, you know? This is what they want you to pay attention to. There is money in planting
trees.
Yeah. It's really,
and let's have national holidays for planting.
For tree planting.
So that we can get money.
So that the international world can see what we are doing and continue giving us. I don't even think
if you have something precious, Lynn, you will protect it.
Yes.
You won't be auctioning it. Do we really value what we have?
I don't think so. I don't think so. This national tree planting days, I'm beginning to think they don't even serve us. I'm beginning to think they are not for us. I'm beginning to think Kenyans are just get used so that the international community can see we spent a whole day planting 10 million trees.
And you see, we have targets.
To connect KPI.
Planting certain number of trees so that we attract those resources. Yeah?
I'm gonna KPI ya kupanda miti. Anyways, Papa, thank you so much.
Thanks,
and maybe for people who would want to connect with you, people who would want to get in touch, how can they find you on your social, maybe as you give a parting shot to our people?
Yeah, thanks so much, Lynn. I hope we have had a very great conversation.
I know so.
And I work for Greenpeace Africa. And Greenpeace Africa is available on all social platforms. We are available on Twitter, we are available on LinkedIn, Instagram, but also on our website, we have petitions that are running.
Oh, really?
We have a petition to ask Kenya government to change the seed laws so that it allows smallholder farmers and our communities to own the seed system.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to pin in on the comment because as I said, we are having that conversation very soon. I think it's tomorrow we are having that conversation. So I think all of us need to actually sign that petition.
On taking back our seed sovereignty. So we have that petition. We also have a petition on the government of Kenya working to protect communities from extreme weather events. So there's a lot of interactive pieces on our website. So if you visit Greenpeace Africa website, you are able to interact with all those petitions, but also ways of engaging with our activities. We mobilize climate justice movements. We have a youth movement that conducts various activities that the public can engage in. Even conversations, we also convene conversations around these topical issues that the public can engage in. As we educate ourselves, as we organize, as we seek to liberate ourselves.
Anything for you guys, if you want to create awareness, honestly, anything you want to put out there, consider us as your partners. We would love to continue spreading the word and we would love to continue educating people one story at a time. So as I said, honestly, I was looking for someone to have this conversation. You came highly recommended, you know, from some of my people, even in other media stations. So I really do appreciate you taking time just to talk to us about this whole scam, better known as carbon market.
No, the thing is, media has a big role to play in this liberation struggle. I think media has a big role to play.
And we must.
And we really appreciate for providing this platform for us to be able to share.
Watoto wetu wateseke kwa hii Kenya bana. Waambiwangu shule pandeni miti. Please guys, plant trees just for your own sake because we need trees but not to commode. I think for me that's my take home. Africans, we need to stop thinking of how we can be able to put a price on everything. And I feel like that's a problem for majority of us, you know. We really need to start asking ourselves, is it worth it?
You see, if you ask about entrepreneurs, they'll tell you that, oh, I found a way on how now we can sell oxygen.
Yes.
And that is seen as a very novel idea, and everyone jumps on it. But if we are going to start such a business, how dangerous would that be?
Very,
Yeah.
very dangerous. Well, my people, I hope we've been enlightened. Matters carbon markets, carbon credits, offsetting. I really hope you've picked something from today's conversation. And as always, I'm really interested in your feedback on the comment section. You know, these things we really disregard will have a huge effect on us as a community in a couple of years to come. So we really have to wake up and also protect our resources. And I really love what Amos has said. Let's not put a price to everything. Let's not put and even if we go back to our ancestors, I don't think money was they really didn't care, but they protected these resources with their whole life. So I really think we need to think as Africans, what's next for us? And these are conversations we really need to start having. That's why tunakuwa shocked at JKIA sijui inafanyiwa nini. That's why we wake up as a nation and we are so shocked because we don't know what is happening in our country. Our time is ripe to always do what's right. So I want to know on the comment section what your take home has been. Amos, once again, thank you so much for just coming through. And I hope maybe we can be able to also have the seed. That's another conversation that is really upsetting, and I'm happy people are starting to talk about it. So I'm happy to see you and you organize. I didn't have you in mind when I was, when we were just formulating this, but should we ever need to have it or have more details on the same, I hope you can be able to come on the network and just educate our people. Once again, shukran. I hope I get to see you guys tomorrow, whichever time it is. Nowadays we air at 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. So I hope I get to see you in one of those. Yeah, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you once again for 1 million subscribers. You guys have been amazing, and I really look forward to having more of these conversations. Remember, if there's anything you want to say to us and you are not free to say it on the comment, info@lnn.digital. That's where you can be able to find us. Tuonaneni. God bless. Bye-bye.